What's up, Whoa, That's Good fam? Welcome back to the Whoa, That's Good podcast. Today we have a very special guest, one of your favorite guests we've ever had on the podcast. We actually have Dr. Eamon again, and I say he's one of your favorite guests because his episode, and I haven't even told you this yet, Dr. Eamon, but your episode was the second highest listened to episode of our year last year. And so I know our guests are going to be so excited you're back with this new message of You Happier, the book that you wrote. And so welcome back to the podcast. I cannot wait to talk to you about happiness.
Wow, thank you so much. That makes me so happy.
I know, right? Isn't that cool though? Like last time you were on this podcast, we talked about postpartum and it was the highest episode of our year. And then this year we're going to talk about happiness. And I just think that that's such a beautiful thing because happiness is something we all need. I think it's something that we've all struggled to have sometimes. Your book is so eye-opening because I think even for the person who thinks, I'm just not a happy person, there's hope for them, you know, and it's such a hope-filled book and message. I can't wait to dive into it. But first, I just want to kick us off by, at the very start of your book, you talk about how Americans are more unhappy than ever. And that is that's shocking. You talk about the unhappiest they've been in 50 years, which is a long time, you know, 50 whole years. And so I just wonder, can you kind of shed some light on maybe why we're there right now and why in the past 50 years we're the most unhappiest right now?
So before the pandemic, depression and addiction were at epidemic levels, and nearly a third of the population struggled with an anxiety disorder, which will not make you happy. And then it got really crazy. The pandemic, the societal unrest, the political divide, it just ran us over as a society. The fear, the isolation. Depression was at 8.5% of the population in February of 2020. And by August that year was 28% of the population.
Wow.
We just never seen anything. It's like we went to war or we were in the middle of the Great Depression. And so many people, especially children, were hurt. And not as much by the pandemic, but by the reaction to the pandemic. The political divide, the social unrest after George Floyd was murdered, it was awful for so many people. Yet, and I love this, I talk about it in the beginning of the book, that happiness is a moral obligation. And I can guarantee you, growing up in Catholic school when I was young, that idea was nowhere to be found. And I'm like, happiness is a moral obligation. And when I first thought about that, I'm like, no. I mean, isn't seeking happiness selfish? Until you realize how you impact other people. And I can assure you, if you talk to anyone who is raised by an unhappy parent or married to an unhappy spouse or raising an unhappy child, whether or not happiness is an ethical issue, I just guarantee you the answer will be yes. And so I love that. Now, hedonism is actually the enemy of happiness, because it wears out the pleasure centers in the brain. And that's why fame is such a trap, because so many, you and I both know a lot of really famous people, there's a high incidence of depression and addiction because it wears out all by itself. Fame wears out the pleasure centers in the brain. And so I know that's a lot for us to unpack. But just the idea that happiness is a moral obligation, I love that so much.
I love that. I wasn't going to ask you the best piece of advice just because you've answered it before, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, whoa, that's good. Best piece of advice, happiness is a moral obligation. And that's so good. I want to talk to you, of course, about fame and all of that. And there is so much to unpack in that. But I want to first ask you this question that I'm genuinely curious about because I feel like a happy person. I smile a lot. I talk about good things. And I believe that the joy of the Lord is our strength. So I feel like I carry happiness. But sometimes, like, I've seen people comment on my Instagram that, like, it's like naive of me that I would be so happy, or even sometimes just I don't realize what the world's going through, or I wouldn't be this happy. And I think for me, it's hard because the reality is I am painfully aware of what the world is going through, and I know what I'm going through, and we're all going through, and there's hard stuff. But for me, I think that's where I tag on that, like, no, this is a strength for me to be happy. Like, it makes me a better person. It makes the people around me, like, I see it benefit the world. Can you talk a little bit about that sense of thinking that it might be naive or hypocritical to be happy when things are bad?
Well, negative people are going to want you to feel negative. And that's why social
Yeah.
media is such a trap. Jesus died so we would have life abundantly. And so, where you
Mm-hmm.
bring your attention always determines how you feel. And so, as a wife, as a mother, you can focus on what's negative and drag everybody down, or you can focus on what's right and bring everybody up.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
the news, let's just talk about that for a minute. It's no longer the news. The news is run by
Yeah.
organizations that want your eyeballs, and they
Yeah.
seek negativity because the brain pays attention to what's negative much faster than it pays attention to what's positive, because the
Really?
brain's wired that way, and that's how we survived thousands of years ago. We woke up in a panic because something was trying to eat us. We were
Wow.
their food. Well, that's not true anymore. But we still have that remnant brain, that reptilian brain that is just looking for what's wrong. And it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've trained yourself to look for what's right, your children will be less stressed, your marriage will be better, you'll be happier. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, of the billions and billions of things that happened yesterday, there were a whole bunch of happy things. But the news doesn't report that. And so people get focused on what's wrong rather than most of what happened yesterday was loving. Most of what happened yesterday was awesome. And people who start their day with the news, in the afternoon, they're 27% less happy than people who don't start the day with the news. So people should write this down. Where you bring your attention always determines how you feel. And if you really want to protect yourself from depression, focus on what's right way more than what's wrong.
We all know that we use way too much single-use of plastic. In the Huff House, we're trying to work hard on going green, but actually going blue with Blueland. I get so excited to talk to y'all about Blueland, and if you haven't heard of it, it's actually so cool. A lot of you know I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank because it's amazing, and y'all know I love Mr. Wonderful, but Mr. Wonderful actually endorsed this product himself, which you know if you watch the show is a big deal. I'm always watching and listening for new things that I can actually buy. I even have a notes thing on my phone of products that I like to keep that I want to buy from Shark Tank one day. And Blueland's actually one of them. And now I have it. And y'all, it's awesome. Blueland's idea is so revolutionary, and whenever I found out about it, I was like, man, this is awesome, because they created these cleaning bottles that you can buy once and use it forever by just refilling it. It's so simple, but such a great idea. There's no more plastic waste in that area of your life, and what's so nice is that even though the products are so eco-friendly, they're just as much effective and affordable. Also, if you like pretty aesthetics for your home, because let's be real, we do, it matters, Blueland has got you covered, because their bottles are so much more beautiful than regular cleaning bottles that you find in the store. All you have to do is fill the Blueland bottle with warm water, pop in one of the hand soap or spray cleaner tablets, and within minutes you have a powerful cleaning product. And one of the most incredible scents that they have, in my opinion, is the lavender eucalyptus. From their best-selling Clean Essential Kit to their hand soap duo and plastic-free laundry and dishwasher tablets, Blueland has something for every single inch of your home. Even your toilet, that's right. With Blueland's toilet tablet cleaner, which is backed by popular demand, you can get it before it sells out again. Blueland's stunning, high-quality, forever bottles start at just $10 when you buy a kit, and they're actually meant to be reused forever. They're money-saving tablets that start at just $2. So try Blueland today. You'll love it, and so will the planet. I personally love that Blueland is so creative and that they're effective against plastic on the earth by targeting cleaning products. I used to have so much random bottles around the house in my home that was used for different things, and honestly, all the plastic just goes to waste. Plus, you're always hiding them under, a cabinet or in a cabinet in a drawer somewhere because they just don't look good. But Blueland is crazy because it's a cleaning product, but you actually want it out of the cabinet because it looks really cute. And it is very convenient. And also, like I said, just because it is cute and all of the different things and it's plastic friendly, it also is a super highly effective, and you don't get to miss out on any of the actual cleaning that you might want in another brand. Everything about it is awesome. Like I said, my personal favorite scent is lavender, but they have so many different personal scents that you can choose from, like iris, agave, and all different kinds. I actually find myself enjoying cleaning even more just because I like Blueland smells and I like to use a new product. You know how it is. When you get a new product, it's fun to use. Right now, you can actually get 20% off your first order when you go to blueland.com/whoa. That's 20% off your first order of any Blueland products at blueland.com/whoa. That's blueland.com/whoa. Visit today and get your home clean today. It's good. I love that. Come on, everybody, take some time to actually write that down and put that into play. And if you're driving right now, then make a mental note to go back later and write it down. Such good advice. I love that. I want to circle back to what you talked about with fame, because I just wrote a book called Who Are You Following? And the message is very similar to some of the stuff that you're talking about. And my message is basically pointing out the fact that you can follow all these people, you can try to get famous, you can follow the trends of the world, you can follow all this, but none of it is going to give you the satisfaction of following Jesus Christ. And here you are saying that, fame, not only can it not give you happiness, but it actually can really hurt your happiness. And I think there's this idea in so many people's mind that if they got famous, if they were a celebrity, if they made it to the top, then they would have the life, And you are sitting over there in California in your office seeing so many Olympians and singers and artists and actors and all these famous people who are struggling to, as you put it, manage their mind. And so can you kind of speak to the idea that people think that happiness is going to come in the form of fame or success or all those things, and how that's actually not true, and why that's not true based on how our brains actually work?
So there's an area of the brain that feels pleasure, and it responds to a neurotransmitter called dopamine. The area is called the nucleus accumbens. And when something good happens, it hits that area with a little bit of dopamine. But if you hit it too much, too hard, too often, it begins to wear that area out, and you need more and more in order to feel anything at all. And fame, so if you think of, I'm in Justin Bieber's docuseries Seasons, where it came out. I've been his doctor for a long time. And to imagine someone so talented, so successful, to have the thoughts of depression or the thoughts that I'm not enough, that other people judge me. He just lived with such darkness, and yet he had so much. I just listened to Will Smith's autobiography, and he talked about it clearly, that when you get more,
Wow.
you need more and more in order to feel normal, that it really unbalances you. And in the beginning of You Happier, I talk about the lies of happiness. And one of the lies is you need more, that more of something, more money, more sex, more a bigger house, a nicer car is going to bring you happiness. Except there's this thing called hedonic adaptation. We adapt to hedonism. The more you get, the less impact it actually has. So I've written 12 New York Times best-selling books. And the first time was like so exciting. And the second time, not quite so much. And then I needed a #1 New York Times bestseller. And I just, and I'm a neuroscientist, so I'm watching myself experience this. And, I was blessed to write The Daniel Plan with Rick Warren, which was a #1. But it didn't really make me happier. What makes me happy is the stories of transformation for people who read my work. That's what really makes me happy. The things that people think, like more sex or more money, it just turns out to be a lie. And money is really interesting because there is, as you get up to $75,000 a year, happiness does seem to go up. But then it completely levels off. And when they ask some of the richest people in the world what would make them a 10 in happiness, they wanted 10 times more money. And it's like, how crazy is that? And so it's meaning and purpose that give you happiness, along with the other things I talk about. It's not more.
Wow, that is such an encouraging message because it's so hope-filled. It's like you actually don't need anything else to make you happy. And so if you don't need anything else to make you happy, as far as what you said, in anything, really anything more, what are some of the practical things? I love how you talk about the micro things that, we have to look for in our day to make us happy. What are some of those things that can start bringing happiness to the person who's listening today, who is like, whoa, I've been thinking that if I get this, I would be happy. I'm starting to realize I wouldn't be. What would start to make them happy?
So in the book, I talk about the 7 neuroscience secrets of happiness. And I love the first one so much. It's, well, one, you need to know your brain type, because not one thing is going to make everybody happy. And that's one of the really unique things about this book, is what makes some people happy, jumping out of an airplane, will make other people miserable. And so you have to know your brain. And in the book, I talk about 5 primary brain types: balanced, most anything will make you happy; spontaneous, where you need novelty; persistent, where you love routine and hate surprises; sensitive, where you need connection; and cautious, where you need safety, that safety and security actually makes you happy. So know your type, and then ask yourself every day, am I doing something that makes me uniquely happy? So I'm a combination of sensitive and balanced, and I need connection, like connecting with you, that makes me happy. So know your type. And in the book, I tell people how they can figure out which brain type they have.
It's great.
Did you take the brain type test?
I did. I was about to talk about that. I took the brain test. I was a type 5. I feel like you're probably not surprised by that because what's funny is as soon as I got done with the test on your website, it gives you some examples of what might help you. And the GABA calming was what came up. And you had already recommended that to me without knowing my type. And so man, I was like, man, he knows me well. And you really nailed it with the brain types. But it's funny that you mentioned that because Christian and I were having this conversation the other day of what would be something on our bucket list that we'd want to do. And then what would be something that we would never want to do even though it's cool. And Christian said, I would never want to go skydiving. He was like, never make me do that. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I never want to go deep sea, like scuba diving. I was like, that would like give me such bad anxiety. It would be so miserable for me. And I was like, and I know it would be cool for you and you would love it because you love the ocean. For me, that would freak me out. And so we were like making a pact with each other that if we ever get in the situation when everyone's telling you have to do it, we'd be like, no, it's okay if you want to skip out. But I love how in the book you talk about these brain types and you even talk about how it's good to know each other's brain type. And so what are some of those benefits to knowing your own brain type, but also knowing your spouse's or maybe your best friend or your family's brain types? Y'all know how much I love Magic Spoon. I've talked about it before, but guess what? In the new year, we are up and we are at 'em. If you are anything like me, setting goals and wanting to be healthier, Magic Spoon is the perfect place to start. Magic Spoon is perfect for meeting your goals, whether it's eating healthier meals or saving more time in the morning. Christian and I are big fans of cereal, but we all know cereal is not great for us. So it's great to have a breakfast like Magic Spoon where you come in, first of all, packaging is so cute. Second of all, you get your protein in. And third of all, you're having cereal. So it's just so great. Of course, we loved our sugary cereals when we were little, but as you get older, you realize that's just not good for me. So we had to make a switch, and Magic Spoon was a great option for a healthy breakfast, and it was still a lot of fun, which we also care about too. Magic Spoon has the most amazing flavors that you will love if you like cereal without any of the bad stuff in them. So whether I'm eating it first thing in the morning before a long day or having it as a midnight snack because I am a night owl, Magic Spoon has been my go-to, and Christian can't get enough either. He actually eats it after workout sometimes just for the protein. Magic Spoon is 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, as well as only 140 calories per serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, soy-free, and low carb. You can even build your own box. Available flavors to build your very own custom box are things like cocoa, fruity, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. We love a lot of them at our house, but our favorites are probably the blueberry and the cocoa, but honestly, you can't go wrong. I personally tend to like fruity flavors more in cereals, and Christian likes chocolate, and we both love it. My personal favorite part is that the back of the box actually has games that you can play on it, and like what makes you feel more like a kid when you're, playing a game on the back of a cereal box, but also like an adult because you're making a healthier decision for your life. So go to magicspoon.com/woe to grab a custom bundle of cereal right now and start this year off right. I know it is February, but it's still the start. If you messed up, keep going. And be sure to use my promo code WOE at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product. It's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they're going to refund your money back, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/woe and use my code WOE to save $5 off at checkout.
Well, one, you can just own it. That if you're the cautious brain type, then the things that make you uniquely happy are things that really settle down your nervous system, whether it's beautiful music or a warm bath or a massage or meditation. And don't shame yourself because you don't want to go scuba diving or jumping out of an airplane. It's like, it just doesn't fit me. And knowing your partner's type, so for example, the spontaneous type, they love surprises. And so know that, throw them a surprise party. But the persistent type, they hate surprises. It makes them very unhappy when things don't go the way they think they should go. And so, knowing their type, you can serve them, you can nurture them rather than expect them to want to be like you. And for marriage, it's really important because, you know, a spontaneous person, they don't really like routine. So always, you know, finding a new and different way to do something is important, where 3 really likes a routine. And, you know, there's safety and predictability. Like my wife and I, we have this really great routine. Mostly I'm her slave. You know, I make her decaf cappuccino in the morning, and I make her brain healthy shake and her brain healthy hot chocolate at night. But I love that because I'm serving her, and it just sort of fits us. And she does all sorts of awesome things for me. But I think just knowing we're different, it's sort of like the 5 love languages, except with neuroscience.
Yeah, that's so good. Christian and I are very similar. Actually, he loves making things for me or setting things out because he is very much a planner and more of a, he's just more put together, honestly. But like, it's funny because he makes these protein shakes and, you know, he makes mine every day and I know how to make it, but he likes to make it for me. So the other day I said, babe, do you like to make me this or do you want me to start making my own? He goes, no, I love it. Like, I love to make you this. And so I was like, okay, great. Like, keep doing it because I love it too. And so it is fun to find those things that, you know, benefit each other. And I love how you mentioned, even for me, like a warm bath, like that would be something that would calm me. And literally every single day I take a bath. And some people think that's funny or whatever. And I've even had somebody say, how do you have time for that? And I just say, I make time because it calms me down. At the end of the day, my brain is so overactive. And we talked about that when I came and saw you. And you scanned my brain. Literally, my brain was so overactive, and my brain was one to loop a lot. And even in the brain assessment test, it asked if your brain gets on loops. And I was like, all the time. That was like the very frequent one. But it's nice for me to get in the bath because it just calms me down, makes me not think about things. And it was cool when I was with you. You gave me that practical advice of putting my hands under warm water. And I just noted that I actually have seen that help. And I think so many times people, you know, they especially in the Christian world, it's like they just want to like pray through it and get through it, you know, and trusting that God will change them. And I want to say to that, yes, God can change you, and trust God and pray through everything. But there are also practical things that you can do alongside that help your journey. And I think whenever I finally came and saw you, I was in this zone of like, I just want God to bring me through it. And you kind of taught me that, yeah, like God's walking with you through it, but do some practical things too, like help yourself out here. And I love how so much of your work, it is practical advice, but it also lines up with biblical principles. Just like everything you focus on is how you're going to feel. Whenever you talk about that, and you talked about not looking at the news, and the word of God says, fix your eyes on things above. So I just love how there's so many things that go together. So for those who are listening, who are like, okay, wow, like this is really freeing because I've been trying to muster up this joy in my heart and I've been feeling down in my faith. Don't feel down, friend. These are practical tips from someone, a doctor who has studied, I know you studied like over 200,000 brain scans for this particular subject, which I'm sure was crazy. And I want to ask you about that journey of scanning so many brains. And I know you taught to people in over like 150 countries or something crazy. What was that like, just seeing so many different people, so many different brains? What have you learned about humanity as you've studied that many people?
So many things. Your brain is the organ of happiness. So if you want to be happy, work to have a healthier brain. I did a study of 500 consecutive patients. I gave them the Oxford Happiness Questionnaire, and then I scanned them. And people who were low in happiness had low blood flow to the front part of their brain. So if you're doing things to damage your brain from alcohol, marijuana, other drugs, not sleeping, being overweight, those things can damage your brain and you're going to be less happy. But really focusing on brain health, loving your brain, avoiding things that hurt it, doing things that help it, you're going to be happier. You know, with a healthy brain comes a happier mind. And people really don't understand the physical functioning of your brain. The moment by moment functioning of your brain creates your mind. And so if your brain's not healthy, say you played football in high school and you had concussions, and those can have a lasting negative impact on how your brain functions, you're going to have a higher incidence of depression. You're going to have a higher incidence of domestic violence. You're going to have a higher incidence of suicide and drug abuse. And so principle number 2 in the book, we got to get our brain right. When we get our brain right, our happiness is better. And, you know, one of the big lessons from scans is mild traumatic brain injury. So concussions. And, you know, I asked you about that a couple of times when we were together. Concussions are a major cause of mental health issues. And nobody knows that because most psychiatrists actually never look at the brain. And, you know, when you look, you're like, oh, and I remember when Justin came into my office, it was during a hard season in his life. And he just got it. He said, I think I understand what you're trying to tell me. My brain is an organ, like my heart is an organ. And if you told me I had heart problems, I'd do everything you said. And he said, I'm going to start doing what you said. Because, you know, sometimes with my celebrity clients, actually with any of the clients, getting them to cooperate, that's the first major hurdle. And, you know, as he got his brain better, he was better. And so that's 3. And that's the second major principle that's just so important. Protect it, love it. And now that your baby's 9 months old, it's like, she shouldn't hit a soccer ball with her head, ever. That just doesn't make any sense. If your brain is soft and your skull is hard, and your brain controls everything, including your happiness, shouldn't we protect that? So dance is good, tennis is awesome, golf is great, but no contact sports where we put her at risk for a head injury.
Audible allows me to listen while I'm still out living my life. I remember the last book I listened to on Audible was so great. It was called Stop Calling Me Beautiful. And I was so into the book, but like I said, I didn't have time to just sit and really read or sit and even listen. So I was listening on the go, and it was such a nice way to just get my reading in and learn more about this book that I was so into while I was on the go. I also listened to Redeeming Love, which is so incredible. Every time I had to put the book down, I'd be like, no. So I'd listen while I was doing my makeup and all the different things. Audible is one of my favorite ways to make sure I'm really meeting my personal reading goals while also just relaxing at the end of the day. If you're curious about it, Audible is free for 30 days for new members. I can easily get overwhelmed with all the different places I'm listening to audio content, but Audible is so convenient because it gets all of your enjoyment in one app. So not only that, but also you have thousands of titles that you can choose from, and there are incredible selections that they have on the app. You'll discover exclusive Audible originals from tons of names that you already know. There is so much that you can literally have at your fingertips as an Audible member. You can choose one title a month to keep from the entire catalog, and you can have a full access to growing selection of incredible titles that make your Audible membership even more valuable. Whether I'm doing chores, traveling, working out, going on a run, whatever it is, the Audible app truly makes every listen worth it every single time. So remember, new members can actually try Audible for free for 30 days. If you visit audible.com/Sadie, that's AUDIBLE, audible.com/Sadie, or text Sadie to 500-500. So easy to remember, right? Just text Sadie to 500-500 to start Audible today. Yeah, I have been so cautious of her already just knowing the stuff that, you've taught me. She'll be walking along the little table and I'm like, okay, let's be careful, because it's inevitable that your kids are going to fall, but I'm like protecting her little brain and her little head. And so, no, I love everything that you've taught me. And one thing in the book I want to point out, just some statistics that you wrote about, because you talk about how happiness, it is in our control, and I think so many people think it's out of their control, whether it's genetics that they have, that they just have in their family or whatnot. But you said it is generally accepted that happiness is about 40% genetics that you inherit from your ancestors, 10% your situation in life or what happens to you, and 50% habits and mindset. Which that was so good, because I think so many times we think we just don't have control. It just, this is the cards that life dealt us. But in everything you're saying, it seems to be that we have a little bit more control than we think we do.
Well, how exciting is that? Is that if you do the right things, you can be better. Um, so much of our health people put off to genetics when it's really our habits and our daily practices. Like I have a family history of heart disease and obesity. Well, I don't have heart disease and I'm not overweight. Why? I know it's my vulnerability, so I purposefully engage in behaviors to have the health that I want. I'm focused. And that's the seventh secret, is live each day based on clearly defined values, purpose, and goals. And in my goals, I want to be healthy and live a long time because I love my life. I love my wife, my children, the mission I'm on earth, and grandbabies. I bet your mother's just having the time of her life with your baby, right? Because it's just like falling in love all over again. And so if I love my life, I need to take care of myself because I never want to be a burden to my children. And, one statistic that's just horrifying, if you live to your 85, you have a 50% chance of being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia. And it's like that, those are bad odds. And I'm hoping I'm going to live to 85 and beyond. The last thing I would want is to be a burden to the people I love. And I love my 6 children, but I don't ever want to have to live with them. I just know me. It's like, no, I'm not going to live with you. I want to be independent. But right, if that's true, then I have to make decisions in my 30s, in my 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, so that I maintain a healthy brain.
Right, it's good. Can you think of any stories off the top of your head of maybe some of your favorite transformations that you've seen from getting people's brains healthier? I know in the book you talked about an 87-year-old woman who decided she was going to date again because it wasn't good for her brain to be alone. Like, I love that. Can you think of any other else off the top of your head that was just a very cool revelation or transformation people had along the process of getting their brain healthy?
Well, I do this series on Instagram called Scan My Brain, where we've been taking
Hmm.
influencers and they go through the process and let us film it. And just this week, we released Troy Gloss. So Troy was a very famous Major League Baseball player. He played for the California Angels and a couple of other teams, hit 320 home runs. And in 2002, he was the
Wow.
World Series MVP. He's 6'5", he's
Hmm.
huge. But he came to see me and he was sad. He was depressed and he was drinking too much and
Hmm.
had forehead injuries.
Wow.
And um, there was darkness and his brain looked terrible. And
Hmm.
he just did everything I asked him to do. Stopped drinking, started eating better, really ramped up his exercise, took his supplements. And
Hmm.
2 months later, he's dramatically better. And I was so happy and I scanned him. So I have
Wow.
a scan before and after. and just showed
Wow.
how much healthier it was. With a better
Hmm.
brain always comes a better life. So that's just one
That's
story
awesome.
that just happened and made me so happy for him, but also for his 10-year
Yeah.
old son. Because one of his goals when he came to
Wow.
see me is, I want to be a better dad. He said, I'm not modeling being the kind of
Hmm.
dad I want to be. And that makes you
Right.
unhappy, right? If you're not living
Totally.
the message of your life, like being a good dad,
Hmm.
um, that incongruity makes people miserable.
Wow, that is such a cool story, and I love that it was just a few months later that you already saw the transformation. Because a lot of times when we're doing something for our health, it's like this long-term goal, right? Which is great, and we should be thinking futuristic. Like, I love how you mentioned, when I'm 85, I hope to have a healthy brain and to still be doing well and not have to live with my kids. But it is really cool too when you see these quick transformations that actually, once you start doing these things, it makes you well fast. You start getting better fast, and yeah, you got to stick to the long-term goal as well, but that's just encouraging to know. I wanted to, just out of curiosity, because you put a bit of this in the book about how people who didn't believe in something bigger than themselves, have any kind of religion or God or anything like that, almost felt more unhappy because of just not really feeling much meaning or purpose in life. And most of our listeners here are primarily religious people, I feel like. And if they're not, everyone's welcome to the party. I love having conversations with all people that are different, and learning from all people. But I do know you are a man of faith, and from just scanning people's brains or getting to know people who are faith filled people, have you found that those people are generally happier, or is it a mix of kind of both?
So people who have faith, when they get depressed, get better twice as fast because they have
Well,
an anchor. They have a sense of meaning and purpose that's not about just them. People who
hmm,
believe we just occurred by random chance and none of this has any meaning, it's harder for them to hold on to happiness. And
hmm,
purposeful people and people of faith live longer. Now, that's not to say it's all good news. People who go to church in their 20s are more likely to be obese in their 40s. And it's like, why is that?
hmm.
Well, just go to most churches
That's
and see
interesting.
what they feed people. That's why I did the
That's true.
Daniel plan with Pastor Rick Warren. Our first fight. So Rick wrote The Purpose Driven Life, one of this generation's best-selling books. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
need to lose the donuts. And he's like, but we were raised on donuts. And churches and synagogues and mosques should be places of health, not illness.
Right.
And so
Right.
getting, beyond the spaghetti dinners and ice cream socials and pancake breakfast, it's just critical because we know better. And if you know better,
Right.
it's incumbent upon us to do better because your body
Right.
is a temple of the Holy Spirit that was given to you by God, that was
Hmm.
bought for you at a price of the blood of Jesus Christ.
Right.
Are you really going to abuse your body? And
Hmm. That's good.
that was just one statistic I found concerning. And one of the goals I
Hmm.
have is to help churches be places of health, not just spiritual
Yeah.
health.
It's
Because when your
awesome.
brain is healthier, I think your relationship with God is better, because you
Yeah.
just think better, you make better decisions, and I want the church to be a place of health.
Yeah, hey, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Well, I love it. I think this is such a huge message, especially for this time. It's very timely. So, if you've loved our conversation, good news for you because there's a whole book about it. It's called You Happier. It's another incredible book by Dr. Eamon. If you're interested in becoming a happier person, which it is a moral obligation, so I hope you're all interested, this is a great book for you. It even unpacks things about finding purpose and how to find meaning in life and how to find happiness in your everyday life. Such a good book, such a good message. Dr. Eamon, I love talking to you, and thank you again for being on the Whoa, That's Good podcast. Such great content and such good advice.
Thanks, Sadie. So great to see you as always.